Broadcasting live 4 days a week worldwide
from the sunny beaches of Southern California.
This is ExtremeHealthRadio.com.
This is Dr. Bradley Nelson, author of The Emotion Code, How to Release Your Trapped Emotions for Abundant Health, Love, and Happiness. You're listening to Justin and Kate on Extreme Health Radio. For more information about The Emotion Code, visit ExtremeHealthRadio.com/Emotion Code.
All right, welcome everybody. Wow, excuse me, I got a bug in my throat there.
That's a typical Monday morning.
Typical Monday morning. Wow, I was going to say welcome.
Warm up over there.
Welcome everybody to a special Monday show that we have for you. This is episode 367, and this is not Thursday, March 16th. It's Monday, March 18th.
No.
March 16th?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Wow, you are definitely having a Monday morning.
I know, everything's all messed up, isn't it? But we're really excited. We have Wolfram Alderson on the show today from responsiblefoods.org. So it should be a really great show. We're going to be talking about the obesity pandemic, type 2 diabetes, metabolic disease, sugar, and all kinds of really interesting information. Check this out. I was looking on their website today. It says on the front page of their website, responsiblefoods.org, that 75% of healthcare costs are for preventable diet-related illnesses, costing $1.4 trillion.
Really?
$1.4 trillion per year. Isn't that crazy? For preventable diet-related illnesses. It's amazing. Childhood obesity has become tragically common, while the processed food industry generates $450 billion annually. That's amazing. So we're going to introduce Wolfram in just a second. We do broadcast every Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific time. This is a special show on Monday morning, but typically it's every Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific time. And let's see what else. If you guys would like to support the show, lots of different ways to do that. A lot of people are doing it through Amazon, so we appreciate that. If you bookmark extremehealthradio.com/Amazon, we really appreciate that anytime you make a purchase there. And another really great thing we have going on is Patreon. And we just had a new subscriber to Patreon, which is really cool. And we appreciate it so much. People can go on there and donate on a per podcast basis, which is really cool. And so it allows people. Nicholas Becker was the latest person to
I saw that. Thank you. Thank you.
So yeah, so you can donate 25 cents, $1, $1.50, $2, $5 per episode, and it really does help us a lot. So we appreciate that. And what else? Anything else to get to? That kind
of covers it.
All the housekeeping?
Yeah, that's the housekeeping. I have to say, I'm on responsiblefoods.org right now. I am in love with this website. It is so sweet looking.
It's cool, isn't it?
This is a cool website.
Yeah, it's very, very cool.
I'm going to post it in the chat room as well.
Wolfram Alderson, and his website is responsiblefoods.org, and he's the founding executive director, chief operations officer. He's been in this field of human and environmental health for 35 years, and he's been in the nonprofit space for just as long as well, and was responsible for the first farmers market here in California, 35 years, back in 1979. So
and we were speaking to him before the show. He said now there's more than 800.
800.
Yes, isn't
awesome.
That incredible?
Yeah, so thank you so much, Wolfram, for being on the show today.
Thank you. It's an honor.
Yeah, so you said before the show you're up in San Francisco.
That's correct.
And is springing up there?
Well, it is a cloudy day right now, but things could change any moment now.
I love
it.
The
way San Francisco is. We're right on the peninsula, so
beautiful.
The weather changes quite a bit.
You must have a lot of farmers markets up there, I would imagine.
Lots of them, yes.
Nice.
I have a question before we were speaking before the show started. Why were farmers markets illegal prior to 1979? What was the reasoning?
Good question.
Well, I think partly were good intentions, but also the food industry had essentially created a lot of regulations that really were meant for supermarkets, such as standard pack and having for things like tables without legs. In other words, you go in the supermarket, you'll notice in the produce section, that there's no legs underneath the tables. They always have a sealed face going down to the floor. Now, why that's the case? Supposedly, I guess it's harder for bugs to get up to the produce than crawling up the leg of a table. I'm not quite sure. But, a lot of regulations like standard pack, all the tomatoes look the same, and certain things like that really just don't apply to farmers who are selling produce off the back of their truck. And standard size of produce really has nothing to do with its, nutrient value or freshness, of course.
Mm-hmm. So do you think they were just trying to put a lot of regulations simply because, they're afraid of competition and people waking up to this kind of thing?
That, and also, the government had a hand in it as well. So, again, a lot of these kind of issues that come up in our food system, evolve, and, all of a sudden we realize we've made a terrible mistake. For example, processed foods. Been a wonderful experiment in human history with our food system that has essentially failed. Mm-hmm. And now looking at it, you quoted that figure of how many healthcare dollars we're throwing down the rat hole every year, just for disease that could be prevented simply by altering our diet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's crazy. 1.4 trillion. That's crazy, because that represents. I wonder what that represents in terms of overall healthcare issues. Because on your website it says that's the preventable.
Good point.
Side of it. So
that's right.
It must be much more than that. That's
inconceivable amount. That is insane.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Huh.
$1.4 trillion for preventable diseases. And processed food, I've heard different stories and different figures over the years, but it's amazing. Every time I seem like I hear a new statistic, there's new chemicals being introduced into our environment. There's new foods and food colorings, and I don't think we have any idea when someone eats something, the processed food, like a Snickers bar or something like that. I suspect there must be thousands of different components in that thing.
That's right. I grew up, and I don't know how old you are, but I grew up in a generation where we just trusted our food supply. Whatever they put on the shelf, we assumed it was safe. And we're now learning that the processed food industry has been taking a lot of liberties for the last few decades. We woke up to, for example, the fact that trans fats were extremely harmful and toxic. And we're starting to wake up to other chemicals that are being added to our food supply. Sugar, of course, being one of the big kahunas and markers for what processed food is about. Mm-hmm. Sugar, salt, and fat are the three big constituents that make processed foods taste good. And as you probably know, if you take those constituents out, that stuff tastes horrible.
And people get a little edgy, don't they?
People feel like they're eating cardboard and they get upset.
Yeah, they don't like that as much.
So, and honestly, I'd rather eat cardboard because it's just, plant fiber.
Yes, exactly.
As opposed to who knows
totally.
what else is in the chemicals they're using now. And unfortunately, if they just put that information on the label so we knew what it was, then, I think if we consumed that knowing what it was, that would be different. But unfortunately, so many of these chemicals are in our food supply, we don't know what they are. Sugar has 80 different names. 80. So you may think you don't eat much sugar, but the average person in the U.S. eats over 22 teaspoons of sugar a day.
Oh, my God.
22 teaspoons.
Yes.
Do you know what that accounts for per year?
It's well over 70 pounds. 70 pounds of sugar per year. Wow. And of course, if you sat down in one sitting and you ate 22 teaspoons, I don't even think you would be able to do it. But imagine there are some people that could, but you just wouldn't do it. And you certainly wouldn't give that much sugar to your kids. And that's an average. So obviously some people are getting much higher amounts.
So you said 22 teaspoons?
22 teaspoons is the current average. And what the American Heart Association and now the World Health Organization and other institutions are lining up and saying is that you get beyond 5% of your total added calories in sugar, you're at risk for cavities and other diseases. 10%, you're moving into the danger zone for type 2 diabetes, which is, basically a few cans of soda a day gets you there. 1 can of soda a day means that you're at about 30% risk for getting type 2 diabetes. 3 cans of soda a day, you're pretty much guaranteeing you're going to get type 2 diabetes.
On 3 cans a day.
That's a huge factor.
I read recently somewhere that in the human bloodstream, there's only about 2 teaspoons of sugar that is dissolved within the bloodstream of the entire human body. So if you're eating 22 grams of sugar, the body can process 2 of those. But then what does it do with the other 20 grams?
Good point.
Excellent question.
Yeah.
So what it does is it offloads that energy into fat. And a lot of us think of fat, we think of that fat around our waist, the love handles, etc., the fat that you can see. But actually the most damaging fat is going into your liver and pancreas and other organs. And non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is now one of our leading healthcare issues. And unfortunately, you're almost blessed if you have body fat on the exterior of your body, because you have fat accumulating. But about 40% of the non-obese in America, somewhere around 67 million people, have some form of metabolic disease. And that means generally that energy, that excess energy from sugar and other, non-nutritious starchy foods is depositing into our organs and creating metabolic disorder. There's only 57 million people who are obese that have metabolic disease. So there's actually a larger number of people who are thin and sick than who are fat and sick. And they're called TOFIs, by the way.
TOFIs,
thin on the outside, fat on the inside.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that goes along with along the lines of skinny fat people.
Skinny fat people.
It's the same exact thing.
Wow, that's
We were watching a video, was it last week? Was it David Wolf had it on his Facebook site where he actually has he pours a bunch of soda into a pan on the stove, and he has this process where he's able to get out like the liquid, and what's left is this horrifying sludge that he has a spoon and it's just dripping down like thick honey. And he's showing the world that's what happens when that's what you're actually eating. And that was shocking because, you think of soda, no big deal. But when people are actually shocked into what's going on, I think that's the best way to reach people, actually. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah.
Well, the founding president of the Institute for Responsible Nutrition is Dr. Robert Lustig. He's written a book called Fat Chance, Beating the Odds Against Sugar, Processed Food, Obesity, and Disease. And what it does that many others have not done is really go into the biochemistry of what those calories do when they get inside your body. You can see what happens in the pan, and it's pretty gross. But we don't really know, what's been going on inside our bodies. And it turns out that the liver is a major actor in our metabolic system. And sugar, for example, most sugars, I mentioned there's 80 different names, whether it's evaporated cane juice or table sugar or high fructose corn syrup. The ratios vary slightly, but they're all about 50% glucose, 50% fructose. And the glucose is sort of the stuff of life. Every living thing on Earth needs glucose. And in fact, the human body needs glucose so much that if it doesn't get it, it will produce it by itself.
Really?
Yes. But fructose, if you're getting fructose from fruit, which is where most of us kind of associate fructose with fruit, if you're getting it from fruit and you're getting all that fiber and the micronutrients, the fruit slows your system down and helps you metabolize that fructose in a healthy way. But concentrated sugars, industrial sugars, which are now in 80% of our food supply, those overload our liver, and essentially the liver just shunts those off into fat, internal fat, as well as fat around our waistline. But the really dangerous fat, as I mentioned, is the fat that's going into our liver and pancreas. If you look at, some of us old enough to remember, one of the great diseases of alcoholics, which was cirrhosis of the liver. Cirrhosis of the liver is essentially the same disease as non-alcoholic fatty liver. So, in other words, when we're handing a kid a can of soda, it's just like handing them a can of beer. It's really the alcohol of the child. It's having the same effect on children. as alcohol does, except you don't get the buzz. It's alcohol.
But same addiction, really. Same addictive quality.
Yeah.
And Dr. Robert Lustig is a pediatric endocrinologist at UCSF here in San Francisco. And unfortunately, he's a specialist, and that means that he only gets to see kids that are referred to him. And for years and decades, he was getting kids referred to him. And he increasingly saw sicker and sicker kids. And he saw kids being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease and other major metabolic disorders that were entirely preventable. And in fact, type 2 diabetes, when I started my career 35 years ago, one of my jobs, I happened to work in a healthcare center for seniors. And we called it geriatric diabetes back then, because if type 2 diabetes were found in a child, it would have been written up in all the journals as one of the most unusual things they'd ever found. In fact, there were hardly any cases 35 years ago, and now there's 20,000 children in the U.S. that have type 2 diabetes. So that's not genetics. That is the environment. That's our processed food system.
Yeah, it's amazing how many kids you see these days. We live next to an elementary school, and we see kids running around all the time. And it's just amazing how many of these kids are what would seemingly be probably called obese.
That's right. And again, keep in mind, this is one of the big myths that, and actually the food industry uses this, is this actually not about obesity. As I mentioned, there's more sick, thin people than fat people in the U.S. So those thin kids that are running around can still have a non-alcoholic fatty liver or have type 2 diabetes. Obesity is a marker that we should pay attention to. It's an important marker, but it's not actually a disease. It is a marker of disease, and it's not the only marker that we should be looking for. And that's really important to remember.
Yeah, and you know what's a little bit disconcerting too is people think sugar and they think sweet, but if someone's eating a slice of Wonder Bread, they're just getting all kinds of sugar in that, aren't they?
That's right. Wonder Bread may not have that much fat on the label in terms of ingredients, but what happens to processed flour and grains and processed starch in general is that hits your metabolic system and it converts to sugar almost instantly in the body, very rapidly. So even if you think you've eliminated most added sugars from your diet, if you still continue down the path of eating processed grains, processed flours, and even, organic whole grain tortilla chips from Trader Joe's, the grain has been processed so much that whatever fiber is left in it doesn't really do you much good, and then it sort of again does the same thing that fructose does. It creates this sugar rush, heads to your liver, and your liver has to shunt off that energy somewhere. Unfortunately, it goes into this really harmful fat deposits, not only on the outside, but on the inside.
What do you think about grain and things like this? We heard all these books like The Wheat Belly and Brain Grain or something like that. And a lot of people talking about the dangers of grain, especially in recent years. What are your thoughts? Are your thoughts more to do with the amount of carbohydrates and sugar in it or the processing? Or some people say we can't even digest grains that well.
Well, if you have celiac disease, which a very small percentage of the population actually does and is really gluten intolerant, gluten-free has become a fad in the food system and really just another way for the processed food industry to actually sell more processed food, ironically. Now, whole grains are good for you in general, unless you have celiac disease.
Okay.
The problem is that, as you're probably aware, that a lot of our industrial agriculture is using so many chemicals in our food production that those chemicals are getting into the food supply. And so, is it organic grain? Is it, how is the grain grown? That does matter. And then have you taken the grain and essentially processed it, even if it's whole grain bread, has it been processed so that all the fiber has been pulverized and its value reduced? And then you've thrown in a bunch of salt and fat. When you combine that with whole grain, that's certainly going to diminish the value of the grains.
And I've also heard too that even something that people don't think about is when they knead they get the dough and they actually start kneading the bread or the dough. That's usually typically kneaded with municipal water, which has high amounts of calcium and chlorine and other chemicals in it. that people don't think about, which is another factor as well.
That's right. I mean, I'm blessed here in San Francisco. We have what we call the Hetchy water supply, and it's generally pretty good. Of course, water come out of the tap isn't necessarily any worse than what you're getting in the bottle. So I do think it's important to pay attention to what's going into our water supply as well as our food supply.
Mm-hmm. Very fascinating. All right, I think this will be a good time to take a break. We are with Wolfram Alderson from responsiblefoods.org, and really fascinating stuff, especially about diabetes. We want to get more into that subject as the interview goes on. Just really interesting stuff. So if you want to go check out his website, it is responsiblefoods.org, and they have a great Facebook page as well, all about, I think it's called Sugar is Killing Us. Is that correct?
That is one of our pages, yes.
I love it. We'll get all of them at the end of the interview. Great stuff. Responsiblefoods.org. We'll be right back right after this break. I have to say, I have been absolutely loving this product by Tristan Truscott and Peter Ragnar called Good Morning, Good Evening Qigong. If you want to listen to the interview we did with Tristan, you can go to extremehealthradio.com/127. And Qigong is a great way to de-stress the body. And as you know, there's a huge component to disease caused by stress, and stress is a huge factor in how we live our lives and the amount of energy we have and the amount of vitality we have. And so, Dr. Shade, what do you think about Qigong?
People come to me and they're really sick and they got this blown out neurological system and all this toxicity. And I tell them, you need to do Qigong, Tai Chi. You need to do these things that settle down and restore your neurology, because it puts together all the parts. It puts you back into that state where you can start to detoxify. And so I highly, highly recommend all that.
And what about you, Kit Campbell? What do you think about Qigong? Do you like it as well?
Qigong is amazing. And the reason that I believe it to be amazing is everything here is energy. That is a scientific fact, if there ever is one. So when you're practicing Qigong, you're actually drawing energy into your body. Your intention, whatever your intention is behind any action, will determine the level of energy, type of energy that you absorb into your body. So your intention behind is very important, just like thought. So when you're practicing Qigong, you're actually bringing energy in and you're bringing out the stuff that might be a bit stale. With Tai Chi, it's totally different. The energy runs underneath the skin because it's more of a martial. This is the Chinese understanding, by the way. It's more of a martial art. So Qigong is very, very good for bringing that energy into the body, and just fantastic.
If you're interested in picking up this Qigong course by Tristan Truscott and Peter Ragnar, go to extremehealthradio.com/Qigong. That's QIGONG. And you can learn more about it. There's a great video on that page, and you can learn more about it on that page. And I highly, highly recommend this product. I love it myself, so go ahead and check that out. extremehealthradio.com/Qigong. So a few years ago, when I was working for this company, it was a really small company, and I had been wanting a Vitamix blender for years and years and years, but they're so expensive, and I just hadn't saved the money at that time to get one. And so as a Christmas bonus, they knew that I loved the Vitamix, so they got me a Vitamix, the 5000 blender. And that thing is so incredible. It was right at the beginning of my raw food journey, and I was using it about 3 times a day, really. Today, I still use it about twice a day to make blended smoothies and things like that. But the Vitamix blender is really, really great. And if you go to extremehealthradio.com/Vitamix, that will redirect you over to there, and then you'll be able to purchase that, and we'll get a commission for your order. And you'll also get free shipping, too, so that'll be great for you if you're interested in saving about $25 on the shipping. And with the Vitamix, you can make sauces and dips and bread. You could make ice cream with it. I've done a lot of ice cream. You can just make the most incredible things. And it's my favorite because it's got a tamper on it. And you can put ice and frozen berries and avocado and some honey and things like that, and with no water at all, and you have that tamper, and you can make the most amazing ice creams with it. So the Vitamix is my favorite blender of choice, and if you're in the market to buy one, I would greatly encourage you to do so if you have the money for it. And if you do it through us, through extremehealthradio.com/Vitamix, I'll get a little commission for it, and you'll get free shipping. So it works out for you and for us too. So if you're in the market, please do it through us. That'd be really cool. And you're going to love this thing when you get it. You're going to fall in love with it. You'll never go back to a regular blender again. So check that out, extremehealthradio.com/Vitamix, and I hope you enjoy it.
100% listener supported. Extreme Health Radio. Opening minds and transforming lives worldwide. Don't forget to join our thriving community for health tips, inspiration, and show updates at extremehealthradio.com/Facebook.
All right, we're having a great time here. Episode 367. What are you laughing at?
I think we should make a new game for Extreme Health Radio.
What is it?
Make all of our guests that we're interviewing try to guess what this guy's saying on the song.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be funny to put everybody on the spot. What do you think he's saying?
I think it's impossible to know, actually.
I know, it's so funny. I love it.
So we are with, this is, like I said, this is episode 367. We are with Wolfram Alderson from responsiblefoods.org. We're talking about all kinds of cool stuff like reversing the pandemic of obesity, type 2 diabetes, metabolic disease. Interesting stuff about the skinny people being just as sick as, in fact, a little bit more sick probably than obese kids and people. But Wolfram, I had a question for you. We were thinking about during the break, it's a really interesting thing, like you were saying, you were talking about the whole gluten-free thing that's, or sort of fad that's going around the health movement these days. But we were talking, I think, Kate, you've read a bunch of articles recently that talks about how the gluten-free movement is really, in essence, swapping one set of issues for another, because they're putting all kinds of
like you said, processed foods and sugars into these products to make them more palatable.
Yeah, so it's kind of trading one thing for another there, isn't it?
That's right. I think part of the problem is the focus on food constituents, versus really focusing on whole, real, natural food. Mm-hmm. For example, the low glycemic food is another marketing tool, and the glycemic index does not measure fructose. So that's half of the sugar supply right there. And so that metric doesn't really help you either. Mm-hmm. So, you might ask, what will help me? I mean, I get it. I mean, there's so much confusing information out there, and it's frustrating that labels on foods seem to be all over the map and not so reliable. Mm-hmm. So, what should I turn to if I can't believe what's on the label and I don't know what's in the ingredients?
Mm-hmm. Good question.
Yeah, and so we just talk about a few things that are on our list. We all know what whole, fresh fruits and vegetables are, and I mentioned earlier that I've been involved with the farmers market movement in California, which is now a national movement. Mm-hmm. So we know what whole, real, natural, fresh fruits and vegetables are, and if you shop around the perimeter of the supermarket, basically the produce aisle and the meat aisle, you're safe. But pretty much everything in between is a danger zone. So, number one, increase your intake of real natural fiber. And I'm not talking about the kind that comes in a pill or a jar or was added back into a processed food. But, for example, juice. I love juice. Everybody loves juice. The problem with juice is that oftentimes the fiber is removed, and you're getting a very concentrated amount of sugar. So, for example, a glass of orange juice has usually about 4 oranges in it. How many times have you sat down and eaten 4 whole oranges in one sitting?
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's very hard to do because the fiber fills you up and creates satiety. And then you get the beneficial micronutrients. And the other thing to keep in mind is that fiber is a bioactive molecule. It's not, sometimes I think we think of fiber as just kind of this roughage that passes through us. But it's actually a bioactive molecule, and it creates all kinds of beneficial mechanisms in our metabolic system. It actually creates a coating on the inside of our intestinal tract, and it helps to slow down and helps our system process food. So the more fiber, the better.
So are you a fan of like green, low sugar, very, very low sugar green juices and these types of things? Because those are becoming more popular as well.
That's right. Low sugar and all of the fiber in there, as opposed to, the last juicer I had, threw out all the fiber out the side. Mm-hmm. And I heard the Vitamix commercial. I got one for Christmas. I use it for making Chipotle cashew cheese is my favorite recipe. Ooh. But watch the juicing, because you can get a lot of juice. You can get a lot of calories and a lot of sugar from juice. So again, you mentioned vegetable-based. Mm-hmm. You're safer there, but keep in mind you can get a lot of sugar all at once with juices. So just look at the ratio of what you're putting in there, so you're not getting too much sugar, overloading your liver.
Yeah. Hey, I'm curious, how did you get started? Because we're talking during the break. What caused you to get into this 35 years ago with the farmers market? Did you have any health issues yourself that you sort of overcame, or?
That's right. I've been in this work for 35 years, but I didn't really understand the biochemistry either. And so a few years back, I was working at a 11-acre organic farm and realized that I was 100 pounds overweight. And, I've been executive director of various nonprofits, and you can imagine how grueling that is in terms of fundraising and all of the energy it takes to, keep nonprofits going. And I had all the excuses in the world for going to my comfort foods, etc. But I really hadn't understood what was the biochemistry driving my weight gain. I could drop the weight, but I just couldn't figure out how to lose the weight or keep it off. And so part of that journey led me to discovering the work of Dr. Robert Lustig, and eventually to founding the Institute for Responsible Nutrition, and losing much of that weight, and then figuring really how to keep my metabolic system in healthy stasis. And essentially it's been through this list that I was starting to enumerate, focusing on whole, real, natural foods.
Mm-hmm. Hey, what was, at that time, did you get your blood sugar checked?
Well, yes, I was actually diagnosed as pre-diabetic. I was on my way to having type 2 diabetes. And in fact, the several medical institutions I went to pretty much said it was a done deal. There was not once was I counseled about diet or really exercise. It was just assumed that I was going to, once you're pre-diabetic, it's sort of a done deal, and you're going to end up being diabetic or have type 2 diabetes. And I just refused to accept that. I just couldn't believe that. And the more I learned about it, the more I realized that what was driving that was my diet, and that if I changed my diet, I could reverse that. And in fact, that's what Dr. Lustig is finding out at UCSF. He's involved in a study now, which the results will be released later this year, where they work with children, and they put them on what's called an isocaloric diet, meaning that they don't actually reduce the calories in their diet. They actually work very hard to keep the calories the same. So it's not a calorie reduction diet. What they do is they remove added sugar from the diet. And they're showing that in just 11 days, they can see as much as a 30% reduction in liver fat, just in 11 days.
Wow.
So the body is very resilient, and probably more resilient when we're children, but even as adults, very resilient, because as you know, the metabolic system is your cellular engine. It's creating and destroying cells every day. And so it's sort of, garbage in, garbage out. If we keep throwing garbage into our metabolic system, we're not going to get very good results. But if we focus on, the best quality food we can find, whole, real, natural foods, we can really make a huge difference on our health outcomes.
We agree. So, going back to that list then, so you mentioned fiber. Let's go through the other ones.
Well, nutrient-dense foods.
Okay.
And, we've all heard about superfoods, berries, but fruits and vegetables, and certainly proteins, whether it's animal or meat proteins, whatever diet you're on. Increasing consumption of omega-3 fatty acids, which you can find in nuts, fish, avocados. Reducing consumption of foods with omega-6 fatty acids, such as corn and canola oil. Eliminating trans fats. It's a synthetic fat, and your body can't metabolize it for energy. And it's been now being phased out or eliminated from most baked goods in the U.S. But they're finding new ways to hide it in our food. So again, processed foods, you just can't be sure what they're putting in there. Restricting branch-chained amino acids, which are found in abundance in corn-fed animals. So, we've all heard about pasture-raised. And I think we kind of think, well, that's great. The animals are treated better and they're grazing around on these wonderful open pastures. But, why is that good for us? It's because they're not eating all of this industrial commodity corn. And that corn has a lot to do with what's wrong with our food supply. It's a junk starch.
Yeah, it really does make its way through the tissues and different glands of the body. We just spoke to a guy, Mark McAfee, who does the raw milks. I think he's just south of where you are. He does the organic pastures, and he was talking about how all of his cows are grass fed, and then it's very meticulous, the process he goes through with how he feeds his cows. But I mean, this is a really big issue especially for livestock.
Yes, and if you want to dive deeper into that issue, see the documentary King Corn. I think it's on Netflix now, and it's a fun, really funny documentary. But they start off the film starts off with the two guys that did the film showing that most of the cells in their body were created from essentially corn. There was so much corn in their diet.
Yeah, I remember that, and they did all this blood work to sort of show that.
That's right.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
And then the last two, avoid drinking your calories. And we talked about, obviously sugary beverages are a big problem, but even if you're juicing, if you want fruit, try to eat it whole, and just be careful about getting too many calories from drinking. And then, of course, alcohol turns into liver fat instantly, so that's still out there. And then the last one is eliminate or significantly reduce added sugar in your diet. And that's one of the things on the list that is perhaps the easiest to do. Now, I'm not saying it's easy, because we've all grown up in a culture where sugar is love. Sugar is the way we reward ourselves for birthdays and holidays and Christmas, Easter, you name it, and all around the world. And so I get it. It's been sort of a cultural paradigm as a way to reward ourselves. But you can see significant results even in a short period of time. You can go online and see any number of sugar detox diets where people are seeing significant results in short periods of time. And it's not just about losing weight. It's about this, they talk about this fog lifting off the brain, because sugar has a really powerful effect on your neurochemistry. And it's not just fat. It's other things that are going on in your system. And I found that I could think much clearer, that I just felt better overall. It had a huge impact. And it does take quite a bit of vigilance if you start reading labels. To make sure that you're still not getting that added sugar from, so much of the food supply. Sugary beverages are easy. That's about 40 to 50% of the, of where people are getting added sugar from. But then the other percentages is all coming from, processed foods and foods on the shelf. And then a little bit of that sugar is what they call intrinsic sugar, meaning what you get inherently in fruits and vegetables, which is natural sugars. There's nothing wrong with that. You can pretty much eat all the fruits and vegetables you want and not have to worry about sugar from intrinsic sources. It's the added industrial sugars that you want to watch.
So, Wolfram, on your site, or can you guide people, whether it's to yours or another site, is there a master list of of sugar components so people can start to learn how to read their labels better?
Yes, actually, Dr. Lustig's written a few books. One is called Fat Chance. Okay. He also wrote the Fat Chance Cookbook, and he also wrote a little. If you go to Amazon.com, you can find, I think it's called 56 Names for Sugar. Just put that in and Robert Lustig, and it's a nice little, I don't know if it's an electronic book or booklet, but it provides you with the names for sugar. And he mentions 56, but industry keeps coming up with new names every day for sweeteners. So
yeah, because the labeling and all these laws that's going on with that, they have to come up with new names. There's a guest we spoke to, I think a couple years ago, where she was talking about aspartame and MSG and all these chemicals that continually get renamed and reintroduced into our food, and it becomes this sort of thing where even she couldn't keep up with all the different names that they were giving for something like aspartame. It's crazy.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, I'd also recommend a new documentary. It's a public television program called Sweet Revenge, Turning the Tables on Processed Food. It was produced here in San Francisco, but it's been seen on public television stations all around the U.S. Over 1 million people have seen it since December. And if you don't have the time to sit down and read Dr. Lustig's book, Fat Chance, you can spend an hour watching Sweet Revenge and pretty much get everything I've been telling you now, plus a whole lot more. Very practical information. So I highly recommend that.
That's great.
There's also, you may have heard of Fed Up,
Yep.
Which is another documentary which made the rounds last year and which also features Dr. Lustig. And if you've only got 3 minutes, you can go to our website and watch Sugar is Killing Us, where they took an hour-and-a-half lecture that Dr. Lustig did called Sugar, the Bitter Truth, and turned it into a 3.5-minute animated video.
Oh, cool.
And it's brilliant. It's called Sugar is Killing Us. Again, if you just Google that, you'll find, or go to our website, you'll find it very quickly.
I love
and then
that.
There's a new documentary coming out called Sugar Coated that we're supporting in May. And so that, again, we'll post all this information on our website.
I love it. I love it.
Great.
We're going to take a little break here. This is awesome stuff. And I want to get into, a lot of people think, too, that when you eat fat, you become fat, or, some of the other issues going on with sugar and its relation to cancer, and maybe its relation to heart disease, causing microscopic inflammation within the body, causing little tears inside the arteries. So all kinds of stuff going on with sugar that you just want to stay away from that stuff. This is not good. Very much not good. All right.
Very much not good.
Very much not good. We're going to be right back right after this break. Hey guys, if you've been following our work for any length of time, you know that I'm a big fan of raw food. I did a raw food diet actually from 2003 to 2010, 100%, and I loved it. And raw food is a huge part of my diet, and I just love it. And if you're interested in making healthy, really amazing raw food dishes without spending hours and hours in the kitchen, I would highly recommend checking out a program put together by Russell James called the Raw Chef Program. You can check it out at extremehealthradio.com/raw chef. And I have to say, it's absolutely incredible. I have it, and it's got hundreds of hours of video, professionally done video, along with workbooks and PDF files. And he walks you through how to make the most amazing, delicious raw food meals that don't take forever. Everything from mock pizzas and pasta to ice cream to cheese to fluffy bread, if you can imagine it. It's incredible. So I highly recommend you checking it out. It's you can check it out at extremehealthradio.com/raw chef. And I think you are absolutely going to love this program. So check it out now. So recently we had a really, really great doctor and author on our show, Dr. Doris Rapp, and she was on episode number 56. And she talked about these really great Austin air purifiers and the necessity of having clean air in your house. And she was talking about how inside of our houses, the air is very, very toxic, and it's more toxic than even outside. And the reason is because there's chemicals that are off-gassing from our paints that are in our house, our chemicals, and our carpets, and the dust and the pollen and the mold and everything else that's inside the air of our house. And we don't get good ventilation. And so having some of these air purifiers are really, really critical. And I spoke with her at length off the air about why she likes these Austin air purifiers and why she promotes them. And it turns out that not only do they get rid of the pollens and the allergens and the dust and the particles and everything that's floating around in your air like most purifiers do, which is great, but they also get rid of, I think, 3,000 different chemicals that are inside. They're just floating around your house. And these things end up in our lungs and in our bloodstream and all of that kind of stuff. And Doris Rapp has been researching this kind of information for many, many years. I think she's in her 80s now, so she really has a handle on which products are good and which products are not so good. And she recommends the Austin Air. And after talking with her, doing a ton of research on my own, and speaking with a company and looking into it from a lot of different angles, we agree with her. So if you're interested in a good quality air purifier, check it out. You can learn more at extremehealthradio.com/Austin, and you'll be redirected to a website that will sell these things. And they're really, really great machines, and I highly recommend them if you have a baby. You want to have these things in their room or in the room where you sleep, or you can take them out and put them in your family room. So if you want to listen to that episode, extremehealthradio.com/56 to learn what she says about them, feel free, but we highly recommend them. So it's extremehealthradio.com/Austin, or you could check out our store and learn more about it on there as well. So thanks for listening, and let's get back to the show.
All free shows, all the time, on Extreme Health Radio. Opening minds and transforming lives worldwide. Join our community today. Sign up to our email list and instantly get our free gift to you, along with loads of inspirational content and cutting-edge tips to help change your life at extremehealthradio.com/subscribe.
So I'd highly recommend, as the lady said, if you guys would like to subscribe to our newsletter list. That's probably the best way to keep up to date with everything we have going on. Lots of really great stuff coming out of our email newsletter list. We won't spam you, and we send you a bunch of really cool bonuses right after you sign up that you can immediately download. An audio course and a great ebook that actually sells for $20. We give it to you for free. It sells for $20 on Amazon.
Sweet deal.
So it's a good deal. So sign up to our newsletter list, like the lady said, extremehealthradio.com/subscribe.
The lady.
And I wanted to tell you,
whoever that lady is, that lady says.
But we just ran the ad for the Raw Chef, and I think kind of the general idea here is if you are going to buy processed food, learn how to read labels. But also, I think we should, all of us, be steering more towards buying whole organic food that doesn't have a label on it. So some of those Raw Chef courses, go check it out. If you go over to that link that I mentioned on the commercial, extremehealthradio.com/Raw Chef, and you click on courses, he's got all kinds of really great courses on how to make raw chocolate, raw fermentation, raw desserts, all kinds of really great stuff. And we have all of his courses, and just really stand behind what Russell James is doing over there at the Raw Chef. So check those out, as well as the Austin Air Purifier too. Highly recommend that. You guys will be really in love with that and help to purify the air in your home. And Kate, during the break, you had a really good practical question, didn't you?
Well, I do, just because I think it's really important to touch on, as a lot of people, including myself, are wondering. So we might ask you, Wolfram, as we're heading into this last section of the interview, people often, I think, are confused, like myself, about grocery store produce versus farmers market produce. Because when I've showed up to our San Clemente farmers market, which we love, by the way, and we're so grateful for your work to get us there and get the spreading around the world, really. But, I'll ask people, is this organic? And a lot of the vendors will say, well, it's not certified organic, but it's pesticide free. So then we go to the grocery store, we get confused when everything's labeled organic produce, but not this pesticide free. So can you kind of dispel maybe some of the myths or misinformation, or give us the best practical way to use these labeling techniques when our shopping?
Well, actually, USDA organic is a very reliable label, and that is certainly one of the most important things, besides farmers markets, it's happened in the last few decades, is the idea of USDA organic and the pretty rigorous standards that are applied to making sure that if a product has USDA organic on it, I think that's a fairly reliable label. And I think what we're going to see happening next is that being taken to the next level. And just because something's organic doesn't necessarily mean it's good for the environment. So we're seeing, I think, a new generation of farming that is not only good for humans, but good for the environment. And so I think we'll, probably see some new form of labeling in the future. But I think it's certainly reasonable to be skeptical, no matter where you're getting your produce from, to ask questions, doing just what you did just now. And at a certified farmer's market, every farmer is required to post his certificate from the county agricultural commissioner, showing the location of the farm, and verifying that the produce you're getting actually is coming from that farmer. And there's been, I'm sure, a couple of abuses of that here and there, but overall, the system's working because it's actually requiring to verify and check where the produce is coming from. And if it doesn't say organic on it, even though the farmer's saying they're using, good farming practices, you're just going to have to take their word for it.
Okay,
so I think it is important that we put more emphasis on labeling in the U.S. and take that more seriously. I think that's definitely an area that we're focused on at the Institute for Responsible Nutrition, and I could provide some examples if you like.
Okay.
Yeah, because some people, I guess it takes a lot of work and money and things to get that certified organic label, because a lot of people will, adhere to those practices, but they haven't gone through the process yet, right?
That's right. And it is expensive, but think of the cost. I mean, what we've been doing for decades is externalizing the costs of our food system to individuals and the healthcare system. Mm-hmm. And so we could say, well, it's it's more expensive to buy organic food, or it's more expensive to buy high quality food in general. To shop at Whole Foods versus less expensive venues. Mm-hmm. But factor in the costs of healthcare and having type 2 diabetes for the last few decades of your life, or taking your child, heaven forbid, to receive treatment for type 2 diabetes. You really can't put a price on that. So,
and also as well as these chemicals too. I mean, it's there's so many different chemicals that are being introduced into our food, and even with organic food. I mean, I feel like it's going to get more and more. People are going to be waking up even more and want stricter standards, because even with organic foods, you still have, chemicals from the municipal water, or maybe the soil is not taken care of, to the level that you would like, or you have chemicals from the air that are falling down from exhaust from planes and things like that. So even with organic, you can improve on that. But I think is the organic movement, is it growing? It must be growing, right?
Absolutely, yes. I think it's growing like the movement that the Institute for Responsible Nutrition is participating in. It's been such a huge part of my career. One of the big advances right now is really grounding our work, our food system work, in biochemistry. Mm-hmm. And this is shaping nutrition in really, paradigm-shifting ways, and it's also shaping agriculture. For example, you think of organic farms, you think of the farmer bringing in, say manure or something from an outside source. Mm-hmm. But in the future, we're going to be, what we're doing already now, some really amazing things with using beneficial microorganisms mm-hmm. to help transfer nutrients from minerals or rock or soil mm-hmm. To the plants. And I think very similar in the field of nutrition, we're seeing this huge advances in the area of the biome of your gut, mm-hmm. and learning that these microorganisms actually are doing a lot of work, and that the human body is actually mostly microorganisms. So you're mm-hmm. essentially a walking bag of microorganisms. Mm-hmm. And that these microorganisms are actually doing a lot of work, but we can disable them by throwing in toxic substances. And the same thing happens in the soil. Mm-hmm. So you're absolutely right. Human and environmental health are not two separate things. They are absolutely the same thing. It's a spectrum. And I think a lot of people are beginning to get that. And that's really at the core of the work of the Institute for Responsible Nutrition, is this biochemistry and how important that science is to not only understanding human health, but also what's going on in the environment.
Yeah, I agree. And I think what a lot of people don't realize too is they think like, cholesterol or fat and these types of things are the most dangerous things in terms of eating poor food or making poor food choices that lead to things like heart attacks. But we've talked to so many people, and doctors and naturopaths and authors and even medical doctors, talking about this metabolic, I think they call it syndrome X or something, where the sugar causes high amounts of inflammation, microscopic inflammation within the bloodstream in the body, and these cause tears inside the arteries, and then your body has to create the cholesterol to patch up these tears that were caused by sugar. And sugar really is the culprit of a lot of these heart attacks that people don't realize, because these people that are having heart attacks are just loading up on carbs and bread and cookies and pasta and all that stuff.
That's right. The fat hypothesis is really dead in terms of science, but unfortunately, that science hasn't yet been translated to the public as well as it could be.
Right.
One scientist leading that effort is Dariush Mozaffarian, but there's many scientists involved in that work, really serious scientists, and it's frustrating because it's not just the general public, but a lot of healthcare, a lot of doctors. In fact, Dr. Lustig, he actually got his undergraduate degree in nutritional biochemistry, but then he went to medical school, and as he often says, then they beat nutrition science out of me.
Really?
And it took him about 30 years to wake up and realize that what was going on was nutrition science was driving these young kids to his clinic. And he started to have flashbacks, remembering his nutritional biochemistry, which was the foundation of his career, and how it's turned out to be so important in his efforts to treat children with obesity and metabolic disease.
Yeah, there was a doctor we spoke to, I forget what his name was a while back, but he was saying there's no such possible mechanism within the human body that turns fat from our plate to fat on our bodies. It's just biochemically not possible to do that. The fat is being caused by the sugar and the carbohydrates and the fructose and the glucose and all that stuff in excess amounts. And it's really interesting because people are still, which is crazy, 2015, they're still afraid of fat.
That's right, and we actually have we were blessed when we founded the Institute for Responsible Nutrition last year to have a champion donor and a fundraising effort step up to help us get our first legs. And this couple, essentially Sammy Inkinen and Meredith Loring, embarked on an expedition, a rowing expedition from California to Hawaii. And I am saying that they rowed a rowboat from California to Hawaii. And Sammy is a successful entrepreneur and actually wins, participates in triathlons and, serious athletic events and wins them. But he realized at some point that he was at risk of being, he was diagnosed pre-diabetic and going down the same pathway that I did. But he was really at the peak of his physical health. And so he was really shocked to learn that he was at risk for diabetes, and he realized that it was all the sports beverages and the power bars and all that stuff, which is filled with sugar. And so this couple actually rode to Hawaii with not only no sugar on board, but no carbohydrates. They essentially rode to Hawaii. This is the equivalent of 3 marathons per day, eating protein and fat. Essentially a kind of a homemade mix they came up with based on what's called pemmican, which is an old, sailor's food, kind of dried meat and fat. And that's what they lived on for 40 something days. And she actually gained weight when she arrived in Hawaii. Now, it was muscle fat.
Okay.
I mean, muscle weight, not fat. But all of the fat on their body was just completely disappeared. And they were eating nothing but fat and protein on the trip.
Isn't that wild? Wow. Yeah, that's almost essentially like a ketogenic diet. That's been a big in the news.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Dr. Finney and Dr. Volek, the low carb performance, they're serious scientists. And they are among a group of scientists that are proving that fat turns out to be an amazing fuel for high performance athletes. And the last thing you need are all the sugary beverages and the Gatorade and the power bars and all that stuff. It has nothing to do with performance.
It's funny.
It's just pure nonsense.
A while back, a friend of mine and I hiked Mount Whitney, which is I think the highest mountain in California here, about 14,000 feet. And it was funny because he was loading up on carbohydrates, much like a marathon runner would do the day before a race. And he was loading up on carbs and pasta and all this stuff. It's funny how that is just still in the mainstream psyche. And I think people learn about that when they're younger, and then it just sort of stays with them, and they don't really think about it. So they kind of adopt these, sort of like the food pyramid. I think people just carry that with them somehow throughout their whole life, don't they?
That's right. CrossFit, you may have heard of the CrossFit community. They have been really talking about this quite a bit in their community, and they've certainly been promoting that athletes drink water and eat whole foods and look for other sources of energy. It turns out, fat is an amazing energy source, and of course, we're talking about healthy fats. And we're talking about, a balanced diet, certainly also with fruits and vegetables in it. But I think we're really starting to realize that, there was some big mistakes we made in our food system about 30 years ago. And one of them was thinking that fat was bad.
Yeah.
Well, I have to mention your friend didn't make it up the mountain, did he?
He did not make it. No, he petered out right before we went to the switchbacks.
And you're like, oh man.
Yeah.
I have to. Fat stores in the body. It's throughout your whole body, and so when your body needs fuel from fat, it just grabs it. Whereas carbs don't. Aren't the energy from carbohydrates. You just have to keep feeding your body more carbs to sustain that.
Right.
I have to ask, how long did it take them to make it to Hawaii? I'm so curious.
If you go to fatchancerow.org, you get the blow-by-blow details, but I think it was about 42 or 43 days.
Oh, my God.
And the hardest thing was breaking off the coastal currents along the coast of California. And it's just amazing because this boat they weren't being followed by a nice yacht or this is a man and a woman, husband and wife, rowing across the ocean and pretty much being doused with water most of the trip. And they were rowing about 17 hours a day on average. And they helped raise $250,000 for the Institute for Responsible Nutrition, which was just amazing because what they did was so inspiring.
That's incredible.
Thank God for phenomenal people who have these. I mean, that's incredible.
Have they written a book? They should write a book about that.
They should.
Oh, I'm sure they will at some point. They're busy. Meredith is starting up a food company, and Sammy is an amazing entrepreneur, so they're already on to the next best thing in their careers. I think Meredith is having a baby.
Good for them.
So anyway, amazing couple. And I think that's an amazing part of the work that I'm involved in now with the Institute for Responsible Nutrition is just all of the amazing people that I'm meeting in this movement. I've been involved in it for 35 years, and I'm not just talking about the well-known folks, but, really everyday people like myself who have been struggling with diet issues throughout my life. And then when you finally figure it out, you finally unlock the keys to, whatever creates optimal health. It's so empowering to realize that you can actually get control over this, and, you can throw out the processed foods and enjoy food. I mean, I love food. Don't get me wrong. I am not on a diet that is not fun. It is a lot of fun. I'm having so much fun with my food right now.
What's great too is when you realize that you ultimately do have control over your diet and over your food choices, you start to realize that, so many other things are possible for you in life. Because for me, one of the biggest things 10 or 15 years ago was I knew I needed to change my diet, but I just, I was a fit guy. So I was going to the gym. I still go to the gym, 3 or 4 times a week and really fit. But at that time, my diet was horrible. And for me, it was actually easier to go to the gym and lift weights than it was to change my diet. But once you figure out how to change your diet, it's incredible because you realize your food cravings change. Then you realize you start feeling better and you have more energy. And then you start having these ideas that are just more awakening, and you get
the brain fog lifts.
The brain fog lifts. It's incredible.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Amen.
Totally.
Yeah. So what are some of your other websites if people are interested in going to your other Facebook pages or I'm sure you have a newsletter list as well?
Yes, and they're all linked on the responsiblefoods.org site. So I think that's all the listeners need to remember, and all the links to our various, social media sites and partner sites are there. Projects like Open Truth Now, which is a project in San Francisco that's helping youth use their own voices to talk about this issue because, as you may be aware, young kids don't really want to hear about get nutrition advice from an old fart like me. They want to hear it from other kids, and they have to talk about it in their own language. And so Open Truth Now is a really creative example of that. Another one is dunkthejunk.org.
Nice.
Again, these are skateboarders, graffiti artists. We partner with a company called Fred Water. Fred Water has the innovation of putting water into an innovative kind of flask container that you can actually slip into your pocket. I mean, try to put a round water bottle, even if it's a reusable one, in your back pocket. You just can't do that and look cool.
Wow.
Oh, my gosh.
And then we have sugarscience.org, which is another really amazing project here in San Francisco, which is archiving something like 8,000 different studies on sugar and then distilling that down into the most essential information you need to know. Mm-hmm. All of these links are on our website, and it continues to grow almost daily. You were mentioning the connection with cancer. Mm-hmm. There's a new movie coming out called The C Word. You can go to thecwordmovie.com and learn about that and the connection with sugar. Mm-hmm. It also has Morgan Freeman as an executive producer, and that's going to be coming out this spring as well. So there's a lot going on right now, a lot of movement, and a great time for people to jump in and join together. And there's plenty of examples in history, whether it was seatbelts or cigarettes and other major health problems, where the American public has kind of woken up and smelled the roses and actually changed it. And I know it seems overwhelming. You look at the USDA and the FDA and commodities, and the list can seem overwhelming. Mm-hmm. But the fact is, historically, the American public has been very, very powerful force once we all focus and get on the same page.
I mean, it's amazing with the work of Ralph Nader back in the 60s doing work on the seatbelt issue in cars.
Yes.
And that was in the 60s when there was no internet, and now today it's just incredible how the word can get out. I mean, we're doing a show live on the internet, and people can pass this around via Facebook, and the word spreads so much easier. I was just curious, as you were talking about that with the kids, it was really interesting. Have you seen that TED Talk where there's this about 12-year-old boy, and he goes into the genetically modified foods, and he does this whole speech? Yes, I have.
Very inspiring.
Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
I mean,
Dr. Lustig's also done a TED Talk, and there's a number of folks that have done TED Talks related to diet that are just mind-blowing.
Yeah, I love it. It's just so much good stuff.
Wow.
Well, thank you so much for spending some time with us and doing the work that you do, and I appreciate it so much. Yeah. Hang on the line.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, hang on the line there really quick. We're going to close out our live show, and I just want to thank everyone for being on the live show. We really appreciate it so much. We will not have a show this Friday because this show today will be taking the place of our Friday show.
Monday's the new Friday.
Only for a couple weeks.
Just the next couple, yeah.
We appreciate you guys being in the chat room and being a part of everything we have going on. So thank you so much for listening live, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode. Yeah, keep up the awesome work, and I so very much appreciate it. And we'll be sharing it with all of our people, too, and as much as we possibly can.
Same to you both, Justin and Kate. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
You too.
Bye-bye. Well, we just hung up with Wolfram Alderson.
What the heck is that guy not doing?
Yeah, pretty interesting, huh?
Mm-hmm. We have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, I like him and what he's doing. Responsiblefoods.org. Just knocking some sense into people. Wake up, people.
I have
just stop eating processed foods.
Ditch the labels, people.
Yeah,
like altogether. Like not ditch the labels. Like we need labeling because we need to know what's in our food, but let's ditch anything that needs a label. Pretty much.
Essentially, right?
When we get back from the commercial or the wrap up here, I have a confession and a question.
For me?
For the world.
For the listeners. All right. Okay.
I wish the question I should have asked Wolfram, but we ran out of time. So maybe you know.
Okay, I'll do my best.
You might.
All right, we're going to be right back right after this break. Kate and I have had our sauna for about a year now, I'd say, when we first got it from Phil Wilson. And it's an incredible machine. We use ours about every single day. Kate sits in about 20 minutes, and I sit in there about for a half hour. Usually watch a documentary, and it's extremely relaxing. It's really, really an incredible machine. And if you go to extremhealthradio.com/sauna, you can learn all about it. We did an entire hour interview with Phil Wilson. You can check that out. You can look at the pictures of us with it. You can watch videos on that page. It helps you to sleep really, really well. You can lose a lot of weight with it. You can burn, I think, around 600 calories in about 20 minutes or so. It improves your skin. increases circulation all over the body, and circulation is critical for your health. You can prevent and reverse diseases with it. If you have a cold or flu, it's incredible. It heats you down to the core. It heats 4 to 6 inches inside your body, so it's really incredible. And a lot of people use it for cancer as well. So if you have any kind of incurable, quote, disease, you can use it for that. And Dr. Shade is the foremost authority on detoxification. And listen to what he says about it.
How do I detoxify from plastics? I mean, you guys are using a sauna, and what does a sauna do for us? A sauna is great. It's moving a number of different toxins. Remember, we talked about the mice that if you put PCBs in there, then that made the mercury all that much worse. And sweating moves out a lot of plastics, volatiles, fat-based toxins. It's really good at moving those out, sweating those out. So that's how you're getting those out, and those are contributing to this synergistic soup inside the body. And so that's why they're good, is they're taking out a bunch of the different things in the soup.
And Daniel Vitalis, one of our favorite guests. What do you have to say about the sauna?
When you go into the sauna, like a far-infrared sauna like you discussed, your body goes into a deep relaxation mode, and your sympathetic nervous system shuts down and your parasympathetic nervous system turns on. And when that's active, that's the nervous system, part of your nervous system that's active when you meditate. That becomes active and your detoxification pathways open up wide. Why is this important? It's important because when you go running and you sweat, you're not necessarily eliminating very much toxicity from your body. But when you sweat in the sauna, you eliminate a lot of toxicity from your body. So sweating in a relaxed state is how we eliminate. The other thing is that what's wonderful about the sauna is that it puts you in a parasympathetic nervous system response, like as if you were meditating. So it's almost a hack. It's like a trick to get yourself into a meditative, relaxed state, to decompress stress, to reverse the effects of stress, and to get your body eliminating deep, deep toxicity that's stored in your body fat because it can come out in the oils of your skin. So I think, sauna is one of the most crucial detoxification, really health practices that we could take on, especially in this era of heavy toxicity, particularly fat-soluble toxins.
The sauna is really, really great. They offer payment plans because if you buy it through PayPal, it's 100% secure. You don't even need a PayPal account. I think you could do a payment plan through PayPal. It's got low EMF electromagnetic fields coming off of it. It's portable, so that means you don't have to knock down a wall in your house. You can just move it from room to room. It sets up in about 2 to 5 minutes. It's super easy to clean. All you got to do is wipe it down when you're done and wipe the neck down. And it produces energy and heat inside very, very evenly throughout the whole machine. All you have to do is sit in there for about 15 minutes a day. And the great thing I like about it too is it requires zero preheating. So you turn it on and you're starting to get warm and you're starting to detoxify with that far infrared light almost immediately. So it's really great. It comes with a 1-year warranty. It's about $990 plus $25 shipping. And that's really, really a good deal because if you look at most of the regular saunas out there, they are in the $2,000 to $4,000 range. So this is really, really a good deal. So check it out, extremehealthradio.com/sauna.
All free shows, all the time on Extreme Health Radio. Opening minds and transforming lives worldwide. Join our community today. Sign up to our email list and instantly get our free gift to you, along with loads of inspirational content and cutting-edge tips to help change your life at extremehealthradio.com/subscribe.
So, Kate, does this mean we can't drink juices anymore? What's the deal?
I know, right?
Can we not drink green juices? Uh-oh.
One more thing dwindled down off of our list of things that we think are benefiting us.
I think vegetable juice, green juice is incredibly beneficial, huge, as long as you can keep it low sugar.
I agree with him on the sugar factor for sure.
I think it's a more powerful food than people understand. And so I think that because it's so concentrated, you have to make sure it's organic and low sugar.
Well, I laugh at Ron Becker, our friend from Newport Float that we've had on the show. Do you remember what episode he was?
I think it was like 301 or 302.
We'll put a link to him, but It cracks us up because occasionally when we go up to our float sessions that we just love at Newport Float, we'll take him a green juice. And he's very specific. He was one of the most specific people, and I love it because he knows that he wants this bitter, he wants his greens to be bitter. I think he requested one time when we went to Whole Foods. Dandelion greens, just really intense, like bitter stuff, but he wanted three or five grapes. Do you remember?
Yeah. I want 4.5 grapes.
And I loved it because the girl at Whole Foods, I go, I don't know if this is even possible, but the juice we're getting for our friend, he wants about 4 grapes. And she goes, oh, no problem. And she ran over to the organic produce section.
She's all excited about it.
But I thought that's how specific people might look at Ron like he was nuts. But I understood it. I thought, man, this guy wants a green juice that's green and he barely wants it palatable. And if those 5 grapes give him enough to be able to enjoy the drink. But I agree. I mean,
it's medicine.
The more bitter, almost in my opinion, it just feels better than these saccharine sweet fruit juices.
And you have to really develop your taste buds over time, because could you imagine, remember my brother posted something recently about the old Starbucks, or not Starbucks, Starbursts. Remember Starbursts?
Oh yeah.
From the 80s? Mm-hmm. It's actually
I was around.
In the 70s too. But do you remember how those sweet those things were? Could you imagine eating those things now?
Mm-mm.
I used to love those things as a kid.
Oh my gosh.
But I think as you change your diet and gradually over time just keep chipping away at eating healthier food, I think your food cravings change. And if I ate what I ate then, if I ate that now, I'd be messed up.
Well, I know that's true because I had a scoop of coconut. We usually get was it Larry and Luna's? Coconut ice cream.
Oh, the coconut ice cream, yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. And I know that we've even been talking lately about needing to kick back a little bit and only have it twice a week and versus every night after dinner because we love it so much. But it has a lot of good fat in it, granted.
Great
it's coconut,
fat, yeah.
Great fat content. But there is still sugar in it. And last night we went and they were out of the flavors we usually get that are lower. And so we got this oh my gosh, it's amazing. Then what is it? Salted caramel chocolate.
Yeah, I forget what that was.
And it's pretty. We looked at the ingredients and granted there are more ingredients in it, which concerned me a little bit. But, I thought every now and then I'm not going to beat myself up over this. So I had about, half a cup or a cup of it after dinner. And within 20 minutes, my blood sugar, it was like, I felt shaky.
Seriously?
When I wrote my blog post last night, my fingers were actually shaking a bit.
No way.
And I was remembering our friend, Dr. Richard Massey. I think he was the one that mentioned, either on our show or another show that we listened to him on because we love him so much, about if that what I was experiencing can be caused by either two things. One, it's so jammed with sugar, my body's not used to having that onslaught that caused that shakiness.
Right.
Or also it could be a measurable food intolerance / allergy to a certain food. Because I know for a fact I don't do well with chocolate, even raw chocolate, cocoa powder, cacao nibs, anything like that. When I have it, I'm just wired,
Are you?
So I'm thinking probably have a sensitivity to it, and it's probably packed with sugar, even if it's organic, fair trade, all these things. But, every once in a while, again, I wasn't going to beat myself up, but I thought, I feel like crap. Why can't I have a spoonful and feel satisfied? And that's my little cheat, if you want to call it. But I didn't need to eat half of the container of that stuff.
10 pounds of it.
It's not, it weighs like 4 ounces. They're tiny.
10 pounds.
That is the world's smallest ice cream container, I have to say, but man, is it good.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like, we need to start, I am no one to, I'm just as guilty as anyone, but I need to start listening to what my body's communicating.
We're all working on it, yeah.
We're all work in progress. And
so what does this mean then? You're going to start eating less of that, or
I'm going to continue to go with the ones that don't wire me, because there's specific ones. I think the mint chocolate flavor, Mint Galactica, along with this caramel salted whatever it was so amazing. But those are the ones that I feel very funky afterward within 15, 20 minutes usually. So I'm going to stick to the lower, less ingredient ones, and probably only have it as a treat, maybe twice a week.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do that with meats as well. I'm just trying to mix it up and not eat the same foods every day, and not, like he was saying, Wolfram was saying, not, buy into I deserve this, and it's I work so hard, or I'm feeling sorry for myself, or
you reward yourself.
Yeah, reward myself with these, even seemingly better options of sugar. Sugar is sugar, and whether it's agave nectar or whether it's high fructose corn syrup, you're getting
which is almost the same thing.
Right. You're basically getting the ill effects of that.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I think it's I don't know what causes us in our culture to have this reward system where we always have to feel like we are rewarding ourselves.
Right.
It's really a strange thing because you would never really, if you weren't living a life that you were doing all these things where you felt like you were suppressing who you really are, and then when you do something good, you reward yourself because of it. It's just such a weird thing. Like, it doesn't seem like in indigenous cultures, they had these times where they would go through all these things they hated to do, and then they would constantly reward themselves.
Well,
that's just so odd.
I can tell you, I'm sure the Native Americans living here back in the day before we, that's a whole other story, but before we got here, and I'm sure their 5-year-olds weren't sitting in desks at a preschool getting little gold stars awarded to them when they, quote, behave well or take a test. I mean, they're out there living life, learning how to shoot animals with bows and arrows and being part of the tribe. It was a whole different. So it's like, look at our culture. We're set up to have a reward system from the time we can open our eyes. I mean,
because everything you're doing is horrible. And when you do something right,
I know. You get this gold star, you get a pint of ice cream, or you justify drinking a bottle of wine. I mean,
it's crazy.
And then especially, I mean, when you're 5, I mean, not many, I'm sure there are a few that just are so stressed out by life and hate their life. I mean, I'm sure those kids are definitely out there. I'm not saying that, but it's funny that we take a reward system put on us, and then we end up making our own system within our own body, within our own mind. And that's more bizarre to me than showing up at a, government facility or state-run thing where they reward you for doing something. But the fact that we change that around and do it to ourselves voluntarily,
it's weird, isn't it?
It's very trippy to me.
Hey, what was your, before the break, you said you wanted to ask a question. What was it you said?
Well, I have a confession and a question.
Uh-oh.
My confession is, I think that I was going toward, or if not, one of those skinny fat people.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because when we went to the Dayton Medical Center for a lot of really great blood work and things, and also an amazing retreat we went on, we were having a full body. I mean, they didn't leave any part of our body untouched through blood work or ultrasounds or any of that. But I had definitely had a fatty liver.
Is that what they said? I didn't even know that.
Oh, yeah. I was getting an ultrasound, and I forget the man's name. He was so nice. It wasn't Frank. That was our IV guy, but
the guy that did the
Jeff
sonogram,
I think, the ultrasound,
yeah.
He spotted fatty liver,
like really bad.
Not really bad, but enough where he said, yeah, here, you got some spots. You don't have a perfect liver. It's not horrible, but it's definitely going more. You should be aware of it. And what that said to me at the time was, I was still not completely watching my diet 100%. I had gotten a lot better, but I was still drinking a lot of wine, which I'm sure was a huge part of.
Well, that's what Wolfram just said.
That's what I was thinking when he said that. I'm
alcohol.
like, I'm not surprised if that alone caused my fatty liver issue. So that was a really good wake up call. And, here I've grown up my whole life, without a weight problem.
Right.
But people always, clients throughout the years say stuff like, you're so skinny, you need to eat something. Well, hello, this is like, I eat like a, I eat a ton. This is my body type, right?
Yeah.
But that always made me feel kind of guilty because they weren't as thin as I was. And it wasn't like I wasn't trying to be this skinny rail person. It just, my family, we were kind of thin people. But it is really important for, I think, people to understand when they say stuff like that. It doesn't mean I'm healthy, and it doesn't mean I feel good. Because people would say, oh my gosh, you're so skinny. I'm like, well, yeah, it's because now my pancreas, my liver hurt every time I take a step. That's what good is it to be, quote, skinny if I feel like crap all the time?
Well, that's the thing is
or I have a fatty liver and no one sees it, but they're like, oh, you look great
people
in that
just
pair
look
of jeans.
On the outside.
It's terrible.
Yeah, people just look on the outside, and I think that,
you look healthy.
Yeah, all they care about is what you look like. You see this in gyms all the time. It's just your physique and all this stuff, but it has nothing to do with your health.
Right. But that's totally like, I like Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm like, I'm a fat, skinny person, like skinny fat person, whatever they call it, like, I think that had I not had that wake up call with my health, 2 years ago, going on whatever that was, I would continue down that road, and it would have been pretty detrimental.
It's not good.
My question that I wish I would have asked him, and maybe this, is, our parents and their generation, a lot of them, unfortunately, complain about the prices of organics and say just, it's so expensive, or wild caught fish. I mean, that's a big thing too. When people want to buy the wild caught salmon, it's just so expensive that they'll end up buying the farm raised because they can't justify why one is 3 times the amount of the other in weight,
right,
in price. But so when he was talking about the organics, and I want to know why they are more expensive. Why do they sell for more? Is it they're using less pesticides, I assume, and things that they're adding into the produce to be able to produce regular non-organic produce and fruits,
right,
and vegetables and all that. So is it that it costs more to do it in an organic way, or is it because of all the certifications and things and the rigorous protocols they have to go through to become a certified, USDA?
Oh, just to have the
certification. So is that what's driving organic produce up?
I think there's a lot of factors, like the yield is not as high, and they have to spend money on natural fertilizers. That's more expensive, and they have to use other methods instead of chemicals to keep bugs off. And those products that they put on their plants are going to cost more. And then, and I think that the yield, like I said, the yield isn't as high, and I think there's a lot of different factors that goes into why. Because I'm with you. I mean, it's like here you have an apple that's organic,
right,
and then you have an apple that's not organic, and you're doing more things to the non-organic one. You're spraying pesticides. So like all you have to do is remove something. So why does it cost more?
You think it would be cheaper, right?
Yeah,
or more inexpensive.
But I think it's because of all those factors, like the yield is different. You have to take care of the plants differently. You have to spend extra money on obviously certification, but then products to make sure that the plant fends off bugs and insects and stuff like that. Because you can't just go spray a chemical sprays all over it. So you have to have some other method of upkeeping the plant and all that.
That makes sense. I love that he said that the way our certification for organic right now is pretty trustworthy.
Yeah, that's good.
Because you wonder. I mean, if anyone were to say anything disparaging, I'm sure he knows enough to be able to be honest about it. So
remember when we were in Tahoe last year and you were ordering? We were all sitting there on the lake with
really fancy restaurant,
and
my family,
and we're all ordering our food, and you kept asking all these questions.
I know. And do you remember they kind of laughed at me?
Every one of your family members laughed at you.
I know. They're like, "Oh, brother." And my mom even rolled her eyes and said, "Oh," and kind of laughed it off to make the server not feel so silly, like having. But I remember I asked,
you're like, "Is this organic? Is it farm raised? Is it
wild?
Is it wild caught? Is it
right? Is there dairy in the sauce that goes over the salmon? I mean." But, we're paying, what was that salmon meal, $40? It doesn't matter what I'm paying for it, but I mean, we have the right to know as consumers, and
exactly.
We are responsible for the most,
putting something inside of our
bodies. Like, that just blows my mind. This is the most amazing thing we're ever going to be gifted.
I think people were laughing because it was almost like, people don't feel worthy enough, like they're worth it enough to ask those kinds of questions, because they think other people are going to think, if they did that, they would think, oh, the rest of the table is going to think I'm crazy, or they're going to think I'm nuts.
Right.
But in actuality, it's the ultimate act, or one of the ultimate acts of self-love. It's saying, hey, I'm worth it, I'm worthy, and I want to know what I'm going to put in my body, so I'm going to ask a couple of questions, and there's nothing wrong with that. But people all your family got really uncomfortable. And
I know.
They kind of laughed it off and all this stuff. But I think you got sort of upset, or you said something back to them saying like, hey, I'm just asking, or whatever.
Right. I did make a point. Like, I need to know. Because at that time, my diet was even way more restricted. I thought, no, I'm not going to feel horrible this vacation, the last of it. If I have half a week left, I'm not going to feel bad because I didn't make a good choice with what I ate for dinner one night. When I'd been so really intentional about my eating up until then. It's not worth it to me. It's just, let them laugh, right?
I know, it's
That's
funny.
kind of let them laugh. Like,
yeah, because these are things
I love
that
my family, but
are important.
Really important.
The act of, granted, you don't put food inside your body because it goes inside a tube that goes through your body, but it's not inside your body. But for lack of a better term, you're putting this food inside your body, and you're causing something to sort of merge and meld into your physiology and the very fibers of who you are. And everyone should ask questions about where their food comes from.
Don't you think?
And I think the next time you're sitting at a table and you're with a bunch of people that are going to make fun of you, let them make fun of you and watch where they are in 5 years. If you continue to ask questions and better questions and be more responsible about what you put in your body, see where you are in 5 years, and you're going to see who's laughing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Because people are going to...
Which sucks. I hate that. I don't want anyone to suffer, but it's true. You just observe someone over a period of time and watch. You start to become very set apart from the rest of the pack.
Because they're not really worthy enough to ask questions, is what they think.
Is what they think.
So I found this on their website. Dessert for breakfast.
Ooh, do tell.
Up to 20 for kids. Kids get about 1 spoonful of sugar in every 3 spoonfuls of cereal. Up to 20 grams of sugar in popular children's cereals. Up to 55% of sugar by weight. Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
It says something else here. Let me look on their
Are you
website.
stuck?
I'm stuck. 66% contain more sugar than federal guidelines.
Oh, wow.
Because you're getting sugar as well in the milk that they're drinking, because milk is sugary just by itself, plus the actual cereal itself. And then if I used to put sugar, I used to sprinkle sugar on my cereal. Do you remember that?
No, I never did that.
Yeah,
You did?
Whenever we'd go over to my grandma's house, we were allowed to sprinkle sugar on our cereal.
And is she alive today?
No. She is not.
You actually didn't grow up with her at all, really, did you? She died when you were pretty young.
Yeah, she died when I was in high school.
So she let you guys do that? Do you think it's a practice she grew up doing? Or
I don't think so. I think it was just something that my parents allowed to, but it was like a treat. At least they did it as a treat. I mean,
sure.
If I could have, I would have done it every day.
My God.
But we would sprinkle white powdered sugar over
white powdered. Okay.
Frosted mini wheats or cornflakes or whatever it was. Isn't that crazy?
That's scary to me that at that age you were thinking this isn't sweet enough. Because I remember getting the Raisin Bran.
Oh, yeah. Raisin Bran.
Yeah, and it actually had like sugar on the raisins.
Mm-hmm.
But I always thought this just tastes like crap. Like this is, compared to Fruit Loops, this is gross.
Yeah.
So I remember thinking it was my least favorite, but I would have assumed that was a safe, boring old person cereal at the time where there wasn't any kid and
bran fiber.
Yeah, kid friendly, wasn't enough sugar, but stuff's packed with sugar.
So we're going to do our best to lower our sugar, even in the forms of good sugar from fruits and coconut sort of ice cream and stuff like that, and our juices and things. So curious if you guys are going to do the same thing. And
I can't wait for that new documentary to come out.
Yeah, we'll put links. There's a ton of stuff that we talked about on the show. So if you go to extremehealthradio.com/367, you'll see links for everything on that page that we talked about, all the different documentaries and websites and stuff. Pretty cool stuff, right?
Oh, gosh. I really like him.
Yeah.
I love him.
He was really cool.
I really did. I thought he was one of my favorite guests. I think his personality was just shining. I think he's super funny, and I think he's obviously packed with information. And God bless him for doing that work that started our farmers market. I mean, we were talking to the guy. I mean, that's pretty amazing. Like how 4 years ago, I'm sitting in my bedroom, getting ready to go to a work day of cutting hair at a salon. And now on a Monday morning, I'm talking to the guy that 35 years ago was developing and working toward us getting legal farmers markets in California.
I know, right?
How cool is our life?
I know. It's so cool.
It's pretty amazing. Like we got to talk to him today. Like he's adding so much. We
go to our farmers market a lot.
I love our farmers market. We need to go more often. We go quite a bit, but I always think people need to. I think there's something so beautiful about just supporting local,
Hey, check this out.
Yeah.
Those apple sauce containers, like those little tiny
Mott's type things?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
On their website, it says 19 grams of sugar in one apple.
Okay.
And then one of those things has 36 grams of sugar.
No, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my
check
gosh.
this out. You'll find sugar in the weirdest places in peanut butter and ketchup and pasta sauce.
I saw that.
Ketchup
I knew pasta sauce.
Pasta sauce has 12 grams of added sugar, not counting the sugar that's in there already.
Mm-hmm.
Ketchup has 40 grams of added sugar, and peanut butter has 7 grams of added sugar.
You wouldn't, I don't eat peanut butter because I'm allergic to the peanut, but that surprises me. When you think nut butters, you don't think sugar.
No.
You think, I'm getting protein, I'm getting fat.
Yeah.
Unless it's the raw. So like when you eat your raw cashew butter, does it have any naturally occurring sugar?
No, not unless it's all certified GMO, organic. Or non-GMO, organic. Raw.
Certified GMO.
It's certified.
No good.
We certify this has genetically modified organisms inside. No, but it's the Artisana brand, and they're really, really in tip-top shape when it comes to organic, raw, and all that kind of stuff. But
yeah, you just got to be careful of your choices. You can still have nut butters. You just have to make a better choice.
Yeah, not do things in excess. So this whole diet thing and nutrition thing is just a constant. It's just a constant, getting better and better in terms of our cravings and things like that.
Yeah,
Well,
it's mastering our lives. It's gaining control back. I mean, I know we can't control everything, but what we can control, it's, I think, a beautiful dance of like seeing how much you can change, and
self-mastery.
It is self-mastery. That's an art. That's a true art.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I hope you guys enjoyed the show today. This was episode 367. Please share it with your friends. If you have any friends, who are sort of just eating typical diets, who might need some, information about what all the sugar. A lot of people don't realize they're getting as much sugar as they are because they don't think bread is sugar.
It's hidden.
Or pasta is sugar, but pass the show on to them if you feel like you want to help them out and see what changes they can make in their diet and things like that. Also, I wanted to let you guys know too, I know we mentioned this at the beginning of the show, about our Patreon account that we just set up. We're really excited about this new service that we just joined forces with called Patreon. And it allows people to do, content creators like us, to allow people to do crowdfunding, where listeners can donate on a per podcast basis. So it really does help us out. And I think that a lot of people think that other people will do it, but we're really calling each and every one of you to help us out in this way, because we want to continue to make the show free. And if you could find it in your budget to donate $1 or $2 per episode, and if all of our listeners did that, that would help us immensely, because we have some really big plans for the website. If you go over to there, extremehealthradio.com/support, we put together a video for you guys, a couple different videos and some samplings of our work, some of our interviews we've done. And we have on the left-hand side a whole section about our plans and goals and what we want to do. And so we have lots of huge, big plans that we want to help serve in a bigger way, the community locally and also worldwide, on a worldwide basis. So we need your help to do that, though.
Yeah,
so
having you guys be a part of that and make this possible is just immeasurable. And we are kind of calling out and asking
we need your help.
People to step it up and really try to, whatever's in your budget, just you might think a small amount is not worth it. But if every single listener even did a quarter or $1 or $2 or whatever per episode, it would get our dreams going that much quicker and be able to give back to you guys in better ways and to the world, because we really do feel called to do this. And sometimes it is really, really hard when you feel very alone. And we, in the support. And we thank everybody for everybody in every way they have supported up until now. But the Patreon is a very, very, very important way that you guys could step in and really help us out. And yeah. And
also, don't forget to visit our store where we have the Austin Air Purifier, the Raw Chef program that we talked about, the Vitamix blenders, the Qigong course, the sauna that we just ran an ad for. That's all available in our store as well. And then also we have the Amazon link, and we are so appreciative of everyone who's been supporting us. We've been getting emails from people saying that they are now bookmarking our link on Amazon.
Nice.
And extremehealthradio.com/Amazon, then they bookmark that, and they've been using it. And so we're forever grateful for you guys to support us that way too. So we really appreciate it. It just really means a lot to us. It helps us keep and continue our work here. And so it just really means a lot to us. So if you can do that, and just pretend like there's nobody else listening, you're our only listener. And, if you could just support us in that way too. And I realize, money is tight. If you are unable to do that, we appreciate it if you just share our show on Facebook or Twitter or something like that. Share it with your friends, and maybe write us a review on iTunes. There's a couple of free things you could do for us that would be a great reciprocal vibe that would help us out a lot. So we appreciate that. And is that about it?
My goodness, I feel like we could talk for hours, but yeah, I think that might be it. I know we're going to put the link to this, but I'm checking out this website, fredwater.com. It is awesome.
What is that? Is that the one he talked about?
Yes, for the skaters, snowboard. You wouldn't believe these killer, look at these flasks and things that fit in pockets.
Oh, no way.
For the skate and snow industry. I mean, they're onto something really cool, because that's true. Who's going to go around with a big, horrible, bulky water bottle and a circular thing in their pocket? Kids just
are they slightly curved so they go around your butt?
It kind of looks like it. I can't fully tell, but I'm assuming they've worked on the The design, hair, ergonomics. Pretty cool.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it so much. Pass the show on to your friends and check out those different ways to support us. We really appreciate it if you can. If not, just hang out, enjoy the show, and we appreciate that as well.
Love you guys, and we will catch you on the next episode.
Hey, everybody. This is Josie, Justin's mum. Don't tell him, but I know he would absolutely be really happy if you would sign up to his free weekly newsletter. And don't forget to share this with all your friends. This is the buzzing bumblebee signing off.
That's so good.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you for listening to this episode.
It's time to go for now, but our mission does not end with this show.
Justin and Kate will be back with another interview packed full of ideas, discoveries, and unique ways to regain your health.
Head on over to extremehealthradio.com/subscribe and instantly download our free gift too that contains cutting-edge strategies to start making healthy lifestyle changes today.
No material on this blog is intended to suggest that you should not seek professional medical care. Always work with qualified medical professionals, even if you educate yourself in the field of live food, nutrition, and alternative medicine. I'm not a doctor, nor am I offering readers medical advice of any kind. None of the information offered here should be interpreted as a diagnosis